You've hit Beltline Construction, brought to you by Calvin College Media Production. Here's your host, Grand Rapids personal trainer, Mighty Joe.
Welcome back to another episode of Beltline Construction. I am your host, Mighty Joe Stankowski. Today we're going to talk about 2 of the 5 fundamental movement patterns that we work with, really. We don't do biceps day, we don't do triceps day or chest or shoulders. We do movement patterns because in the real life we're not working one muscle at a time. Today we're going to talk about pushing and pulling. We've already gone through the whole rotation thing and the level change idea, which we're still going to be able to include in some of these movement patterns today. But with push and pull, this is stuff like push-ups and rows and things that you've probably done already in the gym or have seen at least on an infomercial if you watch anything at 3 in the morning. But we've got a new supermodel we're going to introduce today by the name of Sam, and we have Stephanie, and I'm going to invite them in right now. We're going to jump right into this, going to try to have a little fun with this today. Pushing and pulling is all there is to it. We're going to have Sam just jump in here and show his physical capacity right now for work by doing push-ups as we know them. Nothing too fancy about them, just push-ups from the floor. And we're going to talk about this movement pattern a little bit. And right now, I call this a horizontal pushing pattern. Now you're going to look at this and say, well, Joe, he's pushing vertically. Yes, he is. But relative to his spine, if we were in a normal standing position, this is a horizontal push, so this falls into that category. We're going to do a few reps here, and we're not going to try to blow him out where he falls apart, but we want to just kind of demonstrate the concept here. We got to push up, right? You know push-ups. You've seen them. You've done them in gym class. You've done them in the military, possibly in boot camp. You might even not like them anymore, but we still have this movement pattern as part of our everyday life, so you might as well include it as part of your training, right? Okay, let Sam get one last rep right here. I'm going to throw him out of the way. I'm going to bring Stephanie in the mix. I'm going to do still another movement pattern very similar to that. It is still a horizontal push. We're going to use these cool little tools here called the Liebert equalizer bars. Come from a guy named Mark Liebert up in Canada. Let's not hold that against them. By raising our hands up into an elevated surface, whether it's these Liebert equalizer bars or a couch or a piano bench if you have it, or whatever you have this elevated, we're going to change the angle of movement. So we're going to let Stephanie go into the same horizontal pushing pattern, but we just made it a little bit easier because push-ups, quite honestly, are not Stephanie's favorite exercise. Squats and lunges, though, man, she'll tear you up. You got to watch out for her in that. So we have the same movement pattern, same guidelines as far as prom date, painless range of motion, demonstrating acceptable technique. She's got a nice tall spine, and she's starting to get a little bit tired. As everybody does, what we're going to do is we're going to take her off of this one right now. And again, if you don't have these at home, I mean, I recommend them. They're a great low-cost tool. They're portable, lightweight, easy to use. They're sturdy. But if you don't have them, use something that's elevated. It's good. We're going to throw Stephanie now to the bands, which, if I could untangle these, I don't think I have to untangle them, do I? There you go. We're going to have one for each side. And we're going to do the exact same thing from a standing position now. So it's still a horizontal press. And if you don't have me in your house, as most people don't, to stand behind you, hang on to bands like this, there are all kinds of different attachments for walls and doors and other equipment you might have to make the same exercise happen for you. Bands come in different thicknesses, different resistance. She can make this easier or more challenging by stepping closer to me or stepping further away. Neither of which she has to do right now, because I should go off the set. We're doing a good job. So it's the same movement pattern. If she wants to get really tricky here, we could alternate arms. And it's still the horizontal pushing pattern, but we're just getting a little bit more movement into it. And if she can do this, I'm going to see if you do this without like rotating your body too much. There you go. So this movement from her shoulder, still a horizontal pattern with some anti-rotation, which I believe we talked about rotation and anti-rotation a couple episodes ago. So if you haven't caught that one, or if you forgot it already, go back and find that episode in the archives. And so we've got a horizontal pushing pattern right here. Good job. I'll take that away from you now. One little trick, if you're training somebody and you're holding the band for them, don't let go until they do. And if it looks like you're gonna let go first, just try to beat them to the punch. Gonna move on to a very similar pattern, in that our arms are gonna be moving in this direction. We're gonna have Sam demonstrate now a horizontal pull. So I'm gonna switch spots to you over here. I'm gonna have you grab a couple of those bands. I wanna anchor your feet in so I don't pull you over and so you don't pull me over. Now same thing, it's a row. Here we go. It's a horizontal rowing movement or a pulling movement. Same pattern as the push was, the push-ups and those variations. Arms are moving in the same direction, but the resistance is coming from a different place. And it's horizontal relative to his spine, as it would normally be in an upright position. So far, so good. And here again, we could do, kind of different things as far as going single leg if we want to, or alternating arms, doing all kinds of different variations of the exercise. If the idea is to build strength, you generally want to be solid, stable, and anchored in and have the biggest load you can work against for the most training effect. Good, and I feel some fatigue coming on here. And we're looking good. And we got it, good job. And so from here, what we could do now is we could go into a different kind of row. Still horizontal pulling pattern. I'm gonna have Stephanie throw in on this one. And what we're gonna do is kind of a pull-up type movement. And it's great if you can do a body weight pull-up, if you have the equipment, some sort of a chin-up bar in your home or in your gym that you can do a chin-up from. unfortunately, a lot of people can't do a total pull-up on their own, just their own body weight. So we can change the exercise a little bit by modifying it with these kind of bars or some sort of suspension device. And Stephanie's at Ari because she loves these moves. Not as much as lunges, though. It's hard to believe, isn't it? Anyway, she's doing a great job right here. A couple ways you can modify this exercise. If this is way too easy for her, we could stick her feet out further and put them up on a couch or a table or a stability ball, even make it more challenging, which she's pulled away from that one quick. And this is the whole idea, is have fun with this stuff, man. Because if you don't enjoy the exercise you're doing, you're not going to keep coming back to it. We're laughing, we're having a good time here, yet we're working hard too. And this is kind of what it's all about, is training like this. Let's get a couple more good reps out of it, and we're going to move on to some vertical pushing. There you go. So here's our last horizontal pull right there. Bands, bars, whatever it takes. You want to move in this direction, pull yourself. It's a basic fundamental movement pattern. We've got 5 of them. Next we're going to have Sam come in here and going to demonstrate a vertical push, often called dips in the, I guess the common vernacular, right? Is that what they call it? We're going to start with a full body weight run right here. And you see he's suspended by the bars, and if we don't have the bars, you use a couple solid, stable chairs that aren't going to go sliding out from you on like a slippery floor. Give him a couple more reps of these, and we'll take it to a variation, so if you can't do a full body weight dip, you put your feet out in front of you so you have a little extra support now. The thing I like about using suspension bars like this, or any kind of suspension device, as opposed to having a single chair or a bench behind you, is it allows his hips to move straight up and down. He doesn't have to avoid an obstacle behind him. A lot of times you see people doing this on a bench, and it forces their shoulders almost pop out of their sockets. Like it's really ugly to me to see people do that. It's an injury in the making. We don't want to have to do that. If you get hurt, you don't train. If you don't train, there is no Beltline reconstruction. And here we're moving on to a third variation of it. So it's kind of a mix of a push-up and a dip. And just supporting his feet on the ground behind him. Sam is a fine-tuned machine. I think he's pushing for Travis's job right now. There we go, so we got that. We're gonna move on from the vertical push onto a vertical pull. And now this is gonna more closely mimic the traditional pull-up than what we just did with the horizontal pull. And if Stephanie could jump in here, what we're gonna do is pull up a different band. Now you can see this one here, this is a surgical tubing sort of band. So it's a round, just like surgical tubing you find in a hospital, but instead of the continuous loop band reason, it's like a complete circle going all the way around, like a giant rubber band. From a functional standpoint, not a whole lot of difference. What we're gonna do here is set her up, and she's gonna pull. This is kind of a vertical pull relative to her spine. So while she's horizontal and pulling in a horizontal-ish kind of plane, relative to her body, this is basically a pull-up. And so it falls under our vertical pull movement pattern. Good. And you can see she has her feet stable and solid right now. And if you're doing this at home and you've never used a ball as a prop, it's round, it's going to want to move. And the harder the surfaces you're on, if you're on a solid wood floor, it's going to want to go on you quick. So if you don't have a shag carpeting around, you can throw the thing on. You might want to deflate the ball a little bit, or even put a couple wheel blocks under things so it doesn't slide away from you. We don't have to go too fast on this. We want a good controlled movement. And this is all in part of our prom date guideline. Painless range of motion demonstrating acceptable technique. Hard to tell what acceptable technique is if you're flying through a movement pattern. There's definitely a time and place to move faster as well. See a couple more out on this one. What we'll do is have Sam come back, and he's going to demonstrate just a slight variation of what we can do here as well. Good, I'll take it from me right there. Go with the slightly different band. See if you could assume the position on the ball. But now we're just going to work with one arm. And so we've got here, we're combining our movement patterns. We've got push and pull. We've got rotate. We've got anti-rotate. So here you can do the same thing, solid, stable feet, you're not falling off. But the ball is here. He's asymmetrically loading the movement pattern by having only one hand on here. He has to resist his natural urge of gravity to pull him into a twisting movement. So we're getting our pushes, we're getting our pulls, we're anti-rotating. We're getting all these good movements all together in one exercise. This is why we don't do the biceps, the triceps, the shoulders moves. This is a Sam move. It's a you move at home. Do exercise like this. Think about the 5 fundamental movement patterns, and you will have a good workout, and you will construct your belt line just the way you want to. And we're going to finish up these last few reps right here. We're going to see you again next time. We got a really fun episode coming up you're not going to want to miss. We will see you then. This is Mighty Joe for Beltline Construction. Till then, train like you mean it. A few more good reps. Good job. You're breathing, right? All right.